tonight on First at 9 this Monday the 28th of July 2025. Hello neighbour. President Anura Dissanayake makes his first official state visit to the Maldives. Bilateral talks and the signing of several MOUs scheduled. Digital upgrade. Online traffic Spotfine payments now available via GovPay in the Western Province and on expressways. Booming exports. Sri Lanka's exports from January to June hit a record-breaking $8.3 billion, the highest in the nation's history. Total export revenue projected to reach $18 billion by year-end. Fatal collision. Deadly road accident in Borala claims one life and injures several others. The driver involved in the tragic crash found to have been under the influence of marijuana.
Men, Maldives, from Derana, this is A Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're joining First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, A Derana. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In our top story this evening, President Anura Dissanayake began his first official state visit to the Maldives today, making it his sixth official state visit abroad. The three-day visit will include bilateral discussions and the signing of several memoranda of understanding aimed at strengthening cooperation between Sri Lanka and the Maldives.
President Anura Dissanayake departed today for a three-day state visit to the Maldives at the invitation of Maldivian President Dr. Mohamed Mizu. President Dissanayake was welcomed by President Dr. Mizu at the Valena International Airport in Male. Afterwards, the official welcoming ceremony was held at the Republic Square in Male this afternoon under the patronage of the Maldivian President. The Sri Lankan president was then accorded a Guard of Honour by the Maldives National Defence Force. The two presidents are set to hold bilateral talks and witness the exchange of several memoranda of understanding aimed at deepening bilateral cooperation. During the state visit, President Anura Dissanayake scheduled to address a business forum organised by the Sri Lankan High Commission in the Maldives and meet the Sri Lankan community. Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath and a group of senior government officials are accompanying the president on the state visit.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Yadia, ලොව වැඩියෙන්ම අලෙවි electric scooter Avance Auto within.
Spotfine payments facilitated through the government's online payment platform GovPay were officially enabled today across the Western Province and on expressways. From today onwards, payments for 33 traffic violations that do not require court appearances can be settled online.
With the intention of expediting Sri Lanka's digitization process, the government launched its online payment platform GovPay on February 7th this year. The platform initially enabled online fee payments for services offered by 16 state-owned enterprises. Expanding on the services provided through GovPay, several pilot projects were implemented in selected districts to test online payments for spot fines. Accordingly, from today onwards, the system will be operational in the Western Province and on expressways for the payment of spot fines related to traffic law violations that do not require court appearances.
From today onwards, we are enabling the Spotfine system in the Western Province. The objective is not only to increase revenue for the state, but also to reduce road accidents and incidents of traffic law violations. In parallel, we plan to introduce a point system for driving licenses to track violations and, if necessary, suspend or revoke licenses. We aim to implement the Spotfine system nationwide within a short period. We have identified 33 violations that can be penalized with spot fines. Paying online allows offenders to save time and money compared to paying fines through post offices. Under the existing system, a person must pay 1,100 rupees for a 1,000 rupee fine when paying at the post office. With the online method, there is only a 15 rupee processing fee, meaning offenders save 85 rupees overall. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya underscores the urgent need to enhance the quality of education within the university system, noting that postgraduate programs have increasingly become revenue-generating mechanisms for universities rather than centres for academic excellence. Speaking at an event at the University of Peradeniya today, the Prime Minister stressed that the nation now requires meaningful academic contributions and research that can drive transformative progress and elevate Sri Lanka to new heights.
Industry University Collaboration Day 2025, organised by the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Peradeniya, was held today under the patronage of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya.
As a country, we are struggling with STEM education. The problem also arises from our school education system, where access to STEM education is one of the major factors that creates a barrier for increasing access in higher education for STEM education. In many universities, we use postgraduate education for increasing our university income. These are fee-levying programs that are not necessarily designed with a bigger idea about postgraduate education and encouraging research, but it is a source of income for the university. This has had, I think, a real impact on the quality of our postgraduate education. This needs to change. It is also worrying that now increasingly we are thinking of undergraduate education also as a source of income. And I really think state universities need to rethink this whole situation. As a government, we are committed to working with you to make sure that the focus of a university is on quality, not just quantity. As a government, we are really committed to ensure that there is a path to the university system, but that the university system is focused as an academic institution, whereas we create another path for those who want to directly move into the world of work. That's the vocational and skills sector. But for Sri Lanka now, we need the kind of input and the research to take us to another level. And that means not just looking at immediate commercialization, but looking at what is required to propel us to another level, and this requires investment in long-term research.
Apico Next Gen. Make the leap to faster sleep.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම අපාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa emphasises the need to establish a smart education system to bring about meaningful reform in the country's education sector. He made these remarks while addressing a public meeting yesterday in Chilau.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa visited the village of Mellekele in Chilau yesterday, where he engaged with the local residents and listened to their concerns and challenges.
One thing I have always tried to do is find solutions to the problems I see around me. But unfortunately, the public response to these efforts has not always been positive. In the past, when I donated smart classrooms, provided buses or extended a helping hand, I was criticized. People said my politics are based on handouts. Ironically, most of the criticism came from those who are financially stable, people who already have what they need. When the underprivileged were supported, they felt envious and disliked it. As a nation, we need to let go of this kind of selfish mindset. But I don't see that change happening yet. Our public space today seems to reward bragging, boasting and making jokes. I was mocked for my English. I was ridiculed when I spoke out about the need for our school children to learn English. When I spoke of this at schools, I was condemned and taken as a joke on social media. But look at what's happening now. When our leaders attend international conferences and struggle to communicate effectively, it's not just their personal reputation that suffers, it is an embarrassment to the entire country. Still, we must not mock those individuals either. What we need instead is a real change, starting with education. We must move away from a system based purely on memorization. We need to nurture a generation that is smart, capable and globally competitive. We need to invest in STEM education and foster a new smart generation.
And with that, here's more thoughts shared in the political arena concerning Minister K.D. Lalkantha's claim that the President's security detail must be increased in strength.
The JVP had long maintained the stance that leaders of state should not be entitled to any form of personal security. They instilled hatred in the hearts of the public through such comments. This led them to secure power in the country. After assuming office, President Anura Dissanayake now enjoys a security detail that surpasses even that of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, who ended the country's 3-decade-long civil war. Unashamedly, Minister Lal Kanta claimed that the current security arrangements for the president are inadequate and must be further strengthened. We acknowledge that it is essential for the head of state to have adequate security. However, the absence of such acknowledgements prior to the election implies that they lack understanding of the responsibilities and realities of the presidency. While I may personally find it difficult to accept Anura Dissanayake as the president of this nation, it remains the collective duty of all citizens to ensure his safety. Should the people choose through democratic means to vote him out of office, that is their right. But any attempt to unseat the government through conspiracy would only lead the country into chaos. Thereby, it is imperative that the head of state be provided with security. No requests have been made by the people to ensure security. Intelligence services and the Presidential Security Division are actively handling these matters. The relevant authorities will assess the current situation and take appropriate decisions accordingly.
A Fernando has been appointed the Chief Secretary of the Uva Province. The letter of appointment was officially handed over to her by the Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanat Kumar Naika, at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. Fernando, a special grade officer of the Administrative Service, previously served as the Secretary to the Minister of Education, Cultural and Arts Affairs, Sports and Youth Affairs and Information Technology of the Western Province. A fatal accident occurred this morning near the Borala cemetery, claiming one life and leaving several others injured. According to hospital officials, the conditions of the injured are not critical. Police have arrested the driver of the crane truck involved in the accident, who tested positive for marijuana, as well as its owner.
The incident took place around 7:45 a.m. when a crane truck belonging to a private company travelling along Bauddha Lokamavata from Devi Balika Vidyalaya towards the Borala cemetery roundabout collided with a security fence and a post near the cemetery. The truck, which failed to stop, then sped towards the roundabout, ploughing through several motorcycles and vehicles halted at the traffic lights. 6 motorcycles were dragged under the truck, with multiple riders sustaining serious injuries. One individual succumbed to their injuries on the spot. Bystanders quickly rushed the injured to the Colombo National Hospital. In total, 6 people were injured, including 2 police officers, though hospital officials confirmed their conditions are not critical.
We
performed emergency surgeries and procedures on the patients who were brought in. One individual required an amputation of the left leg. Another patient sustained a broken leg, but it does not require amputation or surgery at this time. 2 female patients were injured, one of whom, aged 25, sustained severe facial injuries. For another patient, we need to re-evaluate their condition to determine whether a leg amputation will be necessary.
3 cars were also damaged in the accident, which caused heavy traffic congestion across several roads leading into Colombo during the morning rush hour. Police arrested the 26-year-old truck driver, and medical tests confirmed he was under the influence of marijuana at the time of the accident. The owner of the truck has also been arrested by the police. The deceased has been identified as a 62-year-old resident of Aturugiriya. Borala police are conducting further investigations into the incident. Meanwhile, another fatal accident occurred yesterday afternoon near the 175th kilometer post in Angunakola Palassa on the Southern Expressway. Police reported that a rear tire of a van travelling from Mattala to Colombo burst, causing it to crash into a safety barrier. The van was carrying 6 passengers. 2 women aged 72 and 42 died in the accident, while 4 others sustained injuries and were admitted to Hambantota General Hospital.
With that, here's a look at some more local news in brief.
The Colombo High Court trial at bar will resume the case against former Defence Secretary A Fernando and former Inspector General of Police Pujith Jayasundara on September 18th. They are charged with criminal negligence for failing to act on prior intelligence to prevent the 2019 Easter Sunday attacks. A new judge will be appointed to the bench after Supreme Court ruling required a retrial with witness testimonies, overturning their earlier acquittal. Meanwhile, former Navy Commander Nishanta Ulugathanna was arrested by the CID in connection with the disappearance of a youth during his tenure as Director of Naval Intelligence. He has been remanded until July 30th by the Polgahawala Magistrates Court. In the meantime, the Colombo High Court will recall the money laundering case against Yoshida Rajapaksa and Daisy Forrest on September 22nd following a request to review digital evidence used in a forensic audit. The prosecution alleges that they unlawfully acquired assets worth 73 million rupees. In other local news, the Hambantota Magistrates Court has reportedly issued a warrant for the arrest of MP Namal Rajapaksa for failing to appear in court for a scheduled trial.
Welcome back. Chairman of the Export Development Board, Mangala Vijay Singh, revealed that Sri Lanka has recorded an export revenue of $8.3 billion in the first half of 2025, the highest in the nation's history. Speaking at a media briefing today, he also mentioned that the EDB expects this year's total export revenue to reach $18 billion and anticipates steady growth of 7 to 8% in exports from the next quarter onwards.
We have reached $8.3 billion in last 6 months. This is the ever highest achievement in Sri Lanka Export Development Board. When we consider about merchandising export, we have reached 6.5 billion export revenue compared with last year. This is 6.8% growth. From the service sector export, we have reached 1.8 billion compared with the last year. We can see 9.75% achievement. We have reached $1,460 million in the month of June from both merchandising and the service sector export. And the merchandising export, we have reached $1.1 billion achievement in last month of June compared to last year. This is from the service sector, we have reached 309 million achievement compared to June. This is more than 16% growth we can see. So USA is one of our key destinations, and last month of June we have recorded 252 million export revenue, and also from the UK and Indian, Italy, German, Switzerland, Australia, France, we can see very much export performance the month of June. African region, ASEAN region, European region and Middle East region, we have reached remarkable achievement during the month of June. This year, our export target, we are planning to reach more than 18 billion export performance, and the first half we have reached 8.3 billion. So this is the ever highest export achievement in Sri Lanka, and also we are expecting more than 7 to 8% export growth from next quarter onwards. And we have taken new initiative to expand the export in Sri Lanka. One thing is market diversification as well as product diversification, also very much important.
The Colombo Bourse closed in positive territory today, with the all-share price index reaching a historic milestone, surpassing the 19,500 point mark for the first time in the capital market's history. The ASPI gained 0.26% to close at 19,517.86, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 0.34% to close at 5,774.51. Market turnover crossed 6.1 billion rupees. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreign investors closing as net buyers, purchasing shares worth 174 million rupees. Analyst at Capital Alliance, Reshan Samarakon, joins us now with a few thoughts to round off our Markets in View segment for the week.
The domestic stock market rose throughout the previous week. The S&P SL20 rose 1.91% from 5,647 to 5,755, while the ASPI rose 2.22% from 19,044 to 19,468. The market turnover decreased by 21.7% to 4.221 billion rupees. Furthermore, the government raised 19.874 billion rupees last week through treasury bill auctions, where interest rates remained unchanged for 3 and 6 month bills, but decreased by 1 basis point for 12-month bills. The market outlook will depend on a possible tariff concession granted by the US.
And with that, here's a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. Welcome back. In international developments, the leaders of Cambodia and Thailand agreed to a ceasefire today, effective midnight, in a bid to bring an end to their deadliest conflict in more than a decade after 5 days of fierce fighting. Thailand's acting Prime Minister Phumtham Vechayachai and Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Manet held ceasefire talks today in Malaysia's administrative capital Putrajaya at the official residence of Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, the chair of the regional bloc ASEAN. The talks between the two warring Southeast Asian countries hosted by Anwar were aimed at halting fighting that has killed at least 35 people and displaced more than 270,000 from both sides of the Thailand-Cambodia border. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed American diplomats' participation in Malaysia to help broker a ceasefire. According to foreign media, China was also present at the meeting. Acting Thai Prime Minister Phumtham Vechayachai, who had earlier expressed doubts about Cambodia's sincerity ahead of the negotiations in Malaysia, said Thailand had agreed to a ceasefire that would be carried out successfully in good faith by both sides. Following the halt in military operations, Israel allowed airdrops to resume in Gaza, which contained 25 tons of food and other basic necessities. The move came amid a starvation and malnutrition crisis which has stalked Gaza since Israel's aid blockade. According to the World Health Organization, at least 63 malnutrition-related deaths were recorded in Gaza this month. Meanwhile, the head of the United Nations Humanitarian Agency said more than 100 truckloads of aid were delivered to the enclave after Israel announced it would establish safe corridors for convoys through Gaza. Jordan and the United Arab Emirates also dropped aid into Gaza over the weekend. However, some humanitarian groups criticized the practice as expensive, inefficient and dangerous. Meanwhile, health officials in Gaza said Israeli strikes have killed at least 34 Palestinians within a day of the easing of aid restrictions. US President Donald Trump has set a new deadline of 10 to 12 days for Russia to make progress towards ending the war in Ukraine or face consequences, underscoring his frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the 3.5-year-old conflict. Trump threatened to impose sanctions on both Russia and the purchase of its exports unless tangible progress is made. The newly established deadline indicates that the president may be prepared to act on these threats following earlier hesitation to do so.
A ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, then obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about? I spoke to him 3-4 hours ago, and it looked like we were on our way, and then I'd say forget.
That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.